If chemistry to you means sex, that's like saying you have a big, thick, beautiful sandwich and you only focus on the tomatoes on it. And you leave out the bread, the meat, the cheese, the lettuce. It's only one small part of the whole sandwich. And it certainly is not the whole sandwich. Otherwise, just have a plate of tomatoes and see how long you can eat those and not get tired of them. Because if your relationship is based only on sexual chemistry, can you imagine having that kind of chemistry into your 80s?
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Fascinating Womanhood channel, where we talk about everything that has to do with femininity and building strong, long-lasting, loving relationships. I'm Sherry Lynn, and I am here with my mom, Dixie Andelin Forsyth. Hi.
Hi.
Today we are talking about how to know if he is the one. The one.
My soulmate.
Sherry, you're the one.
What if I meet the one?
Two hands. Put them together. And what do they make?
One.
Because I knew she was the one.
She's supposed to be his transitional person. She's not supposed to be the one.
He said he loved me and all, but he didn't think that I was the one.
This is something that is out there everywhere. If you Google this, you probably find hundreds of articles about how to tell if he's the one. And most of the articles, I don't know if you have noticed, most of them have a lot to do with a list of things that women want in a man. And it's almost like a checklist that you check off. One of the things, an example that's on a lot of them that I read, because I read a few of them when we were preparing for this video, is he romantic with you? Does he shower you with love and affection? We don't really see, I haven't seen any articles about, or any really great knowledge out there from the perspective of what should you do as a woman when you're thinking about the man that's the best match for you and what advice for you. Does that make sense?
I agree. Sometimes women approach finding a man like they're shopping for a car, things that I want.
Yeah. Not that that's bad. I think it's great. I think it's wonderful to have a list of things that you want, and that's wonderful. But what about you? And what about how you should feel when you're with a man that is right for you?
Keep in mind long term. Like when you said he makes her feel he's romantic. Will he be romantic in 20 years from now?
Well, and not all men are romantic. So does that mean that men that don't know how to be romantic or just aren't very romantic, does that mean that those guys aren't the one for anyone? It just doesn't make any sense.
No, because I'm sure they are romantic when their big, thick wall of reserve comes down, but you may not see it. One of the things we wanted to talk about is, what does the one mean? What does it mean? Some people call that your soulmate. Some people say the one. And some people believe that there's one person that's ever been born that fits well with you.
I'm saying that the right man for you might be out there right now, and if you don't grab him, someone else will, and you'll have to spend the rest of your life knowing that someone else is married to your husband.
And the implication is almost that if you find the one, you don't really have to do you don't have to work on yourself. If you find the one, everything is easy. You have no personal work to do on yourself. You never have to be patient. If he was the one, everything would be smooth. And that part is fantasy. That part cannot work because human beings are just not like that. To me, whether you believe spiritually that there is one, the soulmate, that there's one person for you, is not really the point, because you cannot prove it one way or the other. It's fine to have whatever beliefs you have, but a lot of times we can easily find that if we believe in those things, then we think we don't have to do anything other than look for this kind of magic person. That's going to get you into trouble, because you're going to always be disappointed, because everyone has flaws. And
right. I think that's a really good point that you bring up about it doesn't matter whether you believe in the term soulmates or not. It's still that way of thinking can get you into some dangerous territory, because you're expecting perfection out of this person. You're hoping for kind of, whether you realize it or not, you're hoping for kind of magic, like you said.
Yeah, and parts of your relationship can be almost like it's magic, but if you think that there is one person, you tend to probably focus more on him and his how perfect he is rather than yourself and what you can do to improve and attract a great guy. That's why with the one thing, I think you have to be real careful. But we did come up with a list of several things of how to tell whether he would be good for you.
So we came up with a list of 13. It's a kind of an odd number.
I know.
We tried to even it out to 15. We tried to shorten it to 10, and we were like, no, we need these 13. So
we're just doing it.
13. All right. So what's the first one?
He brings out the best in you. I think that's really important. You know, when Bob and I were dating, I was extremely shy. I noticed when I was around him, I was so much less shy. I was real comfortable around him. He brings out the best in you instead of whenever I'm around him, I'm really not a very good person, or I'm really grumpy or stuff like that. It's a warning flag.
Absolutely. And I think this is really hard because you have to be really self-aware.
Yes.
Because you can be in love with somebody that's not good for you and not be your best and just not want to accept it or face it. And that can be really hard when you're in love with somebody that's not good for you.
Well, human beings are great at justifying.
Yes. And it's really hard. And I think this is the reason why we wanted to talk about all these things on this list is to just be aware and to help you to be more aware.
Yeah, that's it. It's not to make you hard on yourself or paranoid or anything like that. Number 2, accept him, flaws and all. The one thought that I had about that, Bob and I were not engaged very long. I didn't know any of his flaws when I married him. 0. I was fortunately raised with Fascinating Womanhood, and I knew that it was important to do this. So when I started to see them, I knew what I needed to do. If you know someone a really long time, you know more about their flaws. We got engaged 3 months after we met, or after we started dating, and 4 months after we met.
So why is it important for you to accept his flaws if you might not know all of them?
You just decide you need to know enough about him, like does he have character and things like that. If he has no character, you're going to see some of that. Little things like honesty and does he keep his word and things like there's things that you will see. I didn't know his personal flaws that he would never have shown to me until he relaxed and was just sort of let down. Those things that you see later on.
I think this one for me, because I dated a little bit longer. My husband, we dated longer than you and Dad did. And I did see a lot of these things. But I think for me, what this point is about is I saw those things and I didn't care.
You want to hear something crazy? I think I'm falling in love with that slob.
I accepted him anyway. And that's when I knew, okay. He's really special because I don't care.
If somebody had told me that before I got married, did you know that Bob wasn't as tidy as your parents? I would have said, I don't care. I would have said that. Number 3, do you feel safe around him? And we're not talking just physically. We're talking emotionally in every way.
I think with safety, another big part of that for me is secure. You feel stable and secure with him. And that can be different for every woman.
Well, it bleeds right into the next one is, do you trust him? And when you feel safe, do you feel that he will do what he says? Like he won't be like, where is he? Is he out with another woman? Stuff like that. That's a type of safety that we need to feel. Do you feel like you can rely on him? It isn't so much about that he's going to beat you up.
Right.
Although it could be that with some people, it could be that, but it's more like, do you feel emotionally safe?
I think there's a saying too that comes to mind when we talk about, do you feel safe around him? Do you feel like you're at home?
Yeah.
With him. I love that.
That's what Bob says that a lot. He says, when we dated, I felt like I was home. And he said that years ago. To some people, it doesn't sound very romantic, but it's actually very romantic.
Number 5.
This is very important. You have healthy ways of repairing conflicts. Bob likes to say, do you have a repair mechanism in your relationship when there is a conflict? Because there will be, because you're two different people. Do you have a repair function that's healthy, that works, that you can, because when you do, you not only can repair, you can make your relationship stronger.
And what does that look like exactly?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Well, in Fascinating Womanhood, we teach women one of the most valuable things you can learn is a girlishness, which handles all of the everyday annoying things that he might do to just annoy you. They're not the big hurts. They're the little things where he's thoughtless or grumpy or things like that. And that's a repair mechanism. It's also a repair mechanism if he has really hurt your feelings and you're able to talk it through without an argument. And you learn how to do that in a way that he doesn't feel attacked when you do it.
Yeah, this is a big one. And this takes a lifetime for some people to build and really feel great at doing. I think it's okay if you have conflict and it's not always perfect how you handle it. But if you have a decent kind of way of repairing things, I think that's a really, really great sign that this guy's a good match for you. Because if you're constantly breaking up, I know couples that have back in the day, I had friends, they would break up all the time and then they get back together again. They break up and get back together again. And it was like, to me, that was a sign that they just don't know how to repair things.
If you break up when you're dating, and that's when it's in a lot of ways the smoothest, what's it going to be like when you're actually living together as a married couple and you're trying to solve ordinary everyday conflicts that life throws at you? If you can't get along, if you're breaking up when you're dating, that's a huge red flag.
You know, it's so interesting to me. I read so many articles when preparing for this video about how to know if he's the one. And there was not one thing in any of those articles about resolving conflict. The only thing I saw in one that mentioned conflict was that there wasn't any. Like, you don't have any conflict. And I was like, well, that doesn't sound very...
That's fantasy. That's fantasy. You know, even though Bob and I had a very short dating time and I didn't see his flaws, we did have one or two little conflicts where I was terrified he wouldn't ask me out anymore. It was a misunderstanding. It was resolved okay. It was not huge, but even in that short time, we had something. People are not perfect. No one is. And if you have no conflict, then something's fake. Something's not real.
You haven't gotten to know each other, maybe.
No.
Number 6.
Opposites attract. Now, some people disagree with this and say, oh, I'm so much like my spouse. But the truth is, even if you both like this and you both like that, and you both are night owls or you're both early morning people, whatever that is, you're made up very differently. And so
you're going to think differently. Even if you like the same food and you like the same style of clothes or you like the same home decor or whatever, if you share a lot of interests, that's great. But that's not exactly what we're talking about.
No, I mean,
you're going to have different things in your personality that complement each other and you're going to notice it.
And like for me, and I'm not sure about for you, but especially for me, I am a little bit I'm not terribly high strung, but I'm a little high strung. I need someone like Bob who is relaxed. He balances me out. I needed that opposite because otherwise I think, what if we were both like this?
Harry, you and Marie are both from New Jersey.
Really?
Where are you from?
South Orange.
Haddonfield.
Oh.
What if we were both got really nervous when there was a mess? It would be real hard. So in a lot of ways, for a lot of people, it depends what your personality is. Opposites can attract and balance each other out if you're really one way or really another way. Okay, another really important one, number 7, is you have the basic same morals and values.
This one's really important. And I think this is something that you have to take time. We did a video on the levels of relationships. Definitely everyone should watch that out there because it talks about how different levels that you have to reach in your relationship to be close. And it's a great video and it's in your book. Mm-hmm. But I think this one, in order to find out all of those things, you really have to do a lot of, not necessarily time, because like for you guys, it didn't take that long to get there, but you really have to do a lot of connecting to find out if your values are the same. How do you want to raise children? You don't necessarily have to have the identical values, but they do need to align.
Compatible. Well, like if you marry somebody, if you really believe in being honest and honorable, and you marry a guy who thinks it's fine to cheat on his taxes as long as he can get away with it, that's going to be conflict. That's where it's ethical and moral. If he's okay with just calling in sick all the time and he's not sick at all, and that really upsets you, it's going to be a constant source of conflict, and you need to know about that, because that morals and ethics are a little more difficult to change in yourself. If you're the one who says there's nothing wrong with doing this as long as I don't get caught, and you're married to a guy who's a stickler for it, you can change yourself, but those things are harder.
I've heard people say too that you shouldn't marry someone that doesn't fall within your political beliefs. I disagree. I think you can absolutely marry somebody that's, if you're a Democrat, you're a Republican.
It depends on how tolerant you are. And you can't control his tolerance. You can control your own. Like I know somebody who is actually politically active, meaning they're running for office, and their spouse is the complete opposite party. And I often wonder, how do they make that work? And I've heard it's a little rocky.
I know a couple that has complete different political beliefs, and that I asked this question a long time ago, and that's what they said. They said, we just do not discuss it. And you know what? If that works for you, that works for you. But it's like you said earlier, what are you tolerant of, and what are you willing to put up with?
Well, it's definitely difficult. It's not something I would ever want or hope for, because I think the closer you are on all these levels, the better it is for your relationship. People have different tolerances. So number 8, are you excited to build a life with him? Can you imagine that? I want to be with this guy forever.
Well, and you're excited to get an apartment together, even if it's tiny and it's not what you wanted to afford. You're just so excited to have that with him, or to move somewhere exotic or different and pick up and leave, and you're just excited about it. Or the flip side, are you nervous and terrified and you just don't feel good about it and you're just going to do it anyway? You want to feel at least some kind of, I don't care, I just want to be with them, kind of attitude towards building your life together.
Right. And do you imagine you'll be excited to share grandchildren together?
Yeah.
To grow old together. Can you imagine that? Or do you think, I don't want to ever have him see me old? Those kind of things. So, number 9, your spiritual beliefs are mostly aligned. The hardest one is if one believes in God and the other does not.
There are some people that are completely fine marrying somebody outside of their faith, and there are others that is an absolute no. I think, if you are okay with it, the point we're trying to make here is you don't want to try to change them later, and don't marry somebody hoping that they will change later. That's just a recipe for so much heartache, and they might change their political beliefs, or they may want more kids than we talked about or something. There's so many values and morals and ethics that you could turn this into. But I think the whole point is that the biggest ones and the most important, that you align.
Whether you're a different Christian religion, those kind of things don't necessarily, they can blend. But if one is a completely different religion that believes stuff that is completely opposed to yours, you need to look at that. That could be a challenge, unless like we said before, there's a lot of tolerance and respect for the other one. If you believe in God and you marry an atheist, if he's very respectful always of your beliefs and doesn't ever mock you or degrade you for your beliefs, or vice versa. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that could be an instant source of argument, because people's spiritual beliefs are some of the deepest that there are. So number 10, everybody knows this one. You have chemistry.
So what does that mean to you? What does that mean to you?
You're attracted to him. I have so much chemistry with Bob. I told somebody yesterday that when he comes home from work, still my heart kind of starts thumping.
A lot of people think chemistry is kind of a blurred line with lust. And I think it's important to really be able to distinguish between the two. And not that lust is bad. A certain amount of it is surely fine. But I think when you only lust after someone and you say, we have such great chemistry.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Try to be more aware of what those both two different things mean, because chemistry to me also can have a lot to do with friendship.
If chemistry to you means sex, that's like saying you have a big, thick, beautiful sandwich and you only focus on the tomatoes on it. And you leave out the bread, the meat, the cheese, the lettuce, everything else that's on it. And you think, let's just these are great tomatoes. Everything else is kind of crummy. But the tomatoes are good. It's only one small part of the whole sandwich, and it certainly is not the whole sandwich. Otherwise, just have a plate of tomatoes and see how long you can eat those and not get tired of them.
Right.
Because if your relationship is based only on sexual chemistry, can you imagine having that kind of chemistry into your 80s? It's got to last. Healthy chemistry is where it covers a broad area of your life, your spiritual life, your emotional life, your friendship life, and your sex life.
You can have chemistry just when you're talking to one another and you get into a conversation and it just hours disappear for some people. And that to me is also chemistry.
It is. It's another part of chemistry too. Okay. So number 11, you have a strong friendship. And to me, that means like when something happens, Bob is the first one I want to tell.
I love that after I spend a day with you, I can still smell your perfume on my clothes. And I love that you are the last person I want to talk to before I go to sleep at night.
I think this one is so incredibly important to me, this point about friendship, because I think so many young girls, when they first start dating and they're looking for the one, I think there's this idea that the one is this kind of prince in a way. And you have this idea in your head that he is just going to give you all these butterflies and everything's going to be magical and tingly and like you're just going to feel so magical. And I think that that's great if you have that. And some people do have that. But it's okay to work towards things like that. It's okay to start as a friend and develop that love over time. And I think it's different for everybody, but I think it's okay to recognize that someone that you're friends with is someone that you could fall in love with, or someone that you fall in love with could also develop a really loving friendship.
Well, the deepest, best, most solid romantic relationships have both.
Right.
You're not going to have a lifelong love affair with somebody who isn't a really close friend. It just doesn't happen. These are elements of that. And that's what you want. You want somebody that's your companion, that you enjoy spending time with, that you enjoy talking to, visiting with. Like all this list before, you trust him, and that's part of your friendship. Friendship always includes trust. And so all of these things that we've said above, from number 1 down to this one, which is number 11, all have to do with friendship. Do you trust him?
Right.
Does he bring out the best in you? That's all elements of good friends as well. Not the chemistry part, but the chemistry in the sense of that you click as friends. Right. Then number 12, do you support his dreams and he supports yours? Like I saw a show on TV once. The woman married a guy who wanted to be a high school teacher, and she wanted him to be something that made a lot more money. And so she couldn't really talk him into it. So she married him anyway, but she was constantly resentful because she was not satisfied with his income. And she didn't, I don't know what she did, but it wasn't enough for her. And they ended up splitting. But she knew in the beginning he wanted to be a high school teacher. Mm-hmm. So she did not support those dreams. They weren't compatible that way. He was perfectly happy with that lower salary.
If you're someone that wants 2 kids and you marry a guy that wants 10 kids, these are things that are important. And yes, those things can change, but I think that's a big subject though. You know, when we're talking about dreams, we're talking about big things, not what kind of car do you want to drive. You know, we're talking about these big things, like you said, career dreams, family dreams.
When I get married, I want a little white house with a tree in the front yard.
Oh, that. When I get into the money, we can have 100 trees and a big white house, a 4-car garage and everything. Because by then I'll be the champ.
I don't want you to be champ. Any fool would know you won't change.
And the last one that we have on the list is actually, in some ways, it's last, but it isn't last in importance.
Yeah.
Your family and friends like him. Now, there's exceptions to that. If you have a family that's really dysfunctional and you can't really have anything to do with them. Let's say they're all career criminals or something extreme. You may have to not be around them, and that may be an exception. But normally, if your family, and especially your friends, because those are people you pick, if they don't like him, it's at least a flag, a warning flag.
Yeah, I think if your family, you're going to know if your family's opinion is important to you or not. If your family's opinion is not important to you for whatever reasons that you stick by, then do your friends like him? I agree. And they don't have to be head over heels, just like this is amazing, but they do need to approve of him in some way, in some small way. I think this one really stands out to me for the ladies out there that have had a history of dating men that are not good for them, and perhaps maybe ignored a little bit of their family or friends, kind of like, look out, you're not looking at this about him or this about him. That's why this is on here. More importantly, is because you do need to pay attention to the people that you love, what they think,
especially when you see, like in your family, if you've seen any failed marriages, could some of those family members say, I never did like this person. I tried to tell you he was this or he was that. I tried to tell you. And you look back and think, the family didn't really like him for probably many reasons. My dad was very attached to me, and I was the first one married of all the 8 kids. And he didn't want to approve of my marriage to Bob because I was only barely 19. But after he met with him, he could find no reason at all not to.
I had a friend when I was dating my husband that did not like him. And most of my friends did like him. But it was interesting in a way because that friend ended up not being a good friend for me. And so it's interesting how it can go different ways. I think this one is really important that it's someone that you love and someone that you really wholeheartedly trust. I'm not talking about do your acquaintances like him as much as do the people that really mean a lot to you like him.
That really know you.
So some of the ladies out there, is it okay if a few of these, they may not have them?
Oh, of course, as long as it's not the major ones. If he's not your friend and you don't trust him, some things just don't work. They just don't work. It might be that you're not sure if he brings out the best in you. Maybe you don't know him well enough. Maybe you haven't been introspective enough to know that. Similar values. Maybe you don't know some of these.
Yeah, I can certainly say that all 13 of these I had. I can say that pretty confidently. I had all 13 of these, and maybe you don't have all 13, but maybe you have 12. Something like that.
Just make sure trust is in there.
Yeah.
If you have everything but one, it's not good. It's
non-negotiable.
Not good.
Yeah. Well, this has been really, really nice. Thank you so much for sharing all this today. And ladies, if you haven't read Dixie's book, Fascinating Womanhood for the Timeless Woman, you absolutely need to read it. There's so much more in there about relationships and finding things out on your own. And the book is just so, so incredibly helpful. We have a workbook that goes along with Dixie's book. You definitely have to check that out. I'm attaching links for both of those items into this video, as well as our Facebook page and all the places that you can find us on social media. And we're here every week, so don't forget to hit subscribe and click the little bell so that you know when our videos come out. All right, so we'll see you next time. Bye.